Welcome back to the DivergentComics YouTube channel. I'm back with another indie comic creator interview. As you can tell, this is not the typical one-person interview. I have, for the very first time, the artist and writer of a comic series on here, which is actually pretty fun. I have SouthTown Comics on here. They're going to be discussing with me their comic series, actually called SouthTown. This is actually pretty fun because their comic series is something that I probably would have never read, just like if I had scrolled through the comic book shop. But doing this interview really prompted me to read something different, and it's been pretty fun. So we'll start with the writer Joshua, and then we'll let Will introduce themselves.
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm Joshua. I'm Joshua Eady. I'm the writer for the Southtown Comic series. I've been, this is my first comic writing venture. I've been writing the story since 2017-ish.
Nice. Will.
Oh, and I'm Will Smith, not to be confused with the slappy one. I'm the artist for Southtown. I do all the line artwork for the first two issues, and I'll be doing the colors as well moving forward with the series. Been drawing comic style probably since I was in my pre-teens.
Nice.
This is the first comic series I've actually worked on since some of my early work in my early 20s. I took a bit of a break, but once I met Joshua and got a handle on the story, I jumped right in. So took some time to get my feet wet again, but I feel I'm all in now at this point. So
Yeah. So that's interesting. Like I said, this is the first time I've interviewed a writer artist duo. So how did you two meet?
So, the creative team has sort of shifted a few times before it landed on where we are now. I was at a concert, and I met someone. Her name is Allie. She's the color artist for the first two issues, and uh, fortunately for me, the friend that I had brought with me to the concert was infinitely more sociable than I am. Made immediate friends with her because Allie's just impossible not to love, and we all ended up getting a late night dinner after the show. I told her about the comic. She wanted to be involved. And after we met her, she actually was already friends with Will.
Mm.
And when there were some certain things falling through, she was potentially going to be the illustrator, but her style and my writing weren't necessarily compatible,
Mm-hmm.
just artistically. And she had someone in mind, introduced me to Will, and it was love at first sight.
I was about to say it kind of feels like it was love at first sight type of thing.
Oh, for sure. It was a 90s rom-com all the
it was,
Nice.
I think, Sixpence None the Richer was playing in the background. There was a swing set involved. Um, Honestly, I think so. Joshua and I live an hour apart.
Okay.
He's in Richmond, Virginia. I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia,
Oh,
and
okay.
so it's a pretty easy drive for me out there. And I think we met up for just tacos and beer to just kind of sit down and discuss things. And we've been emailing back and forth. And Joshua had sent me basically the character rap sheet for me to kind of just mess around with. And I sent him like, what was it, like two or three character sketches based on.
Yeah, I think it
um,
started with Charcot and Dash.
yeah, I
Mm.
And
might have actually started with DOS, honestly. I know it was DOS, Dash, and Charcot were the first three that I
yeah,
sent your way, and you're like, okay. And so we sat down at this little brewery in
I do
Richmond.
remember that it was definitely DOS that really sold me on your artistic style, because uh, uh, one thing, like a lot of the main characters are kind of based on people that I know personally, and DOS was kind of based on myself.
Mm.
And uh, uh, previous illustrators, the consistent issue that I was finding was that Doss was too pretty. He was meant to be kind of a messy, disheveled guy,
Hmm.
and most artists that I was seeing who were giving me something in return, instead of dad bod, they were giving me kind of daddy, and
Hmm.
I was like, that doesn't look like me if I was in some shitty cyberpunk gang. I want to look like
Yeah.
me if I looked like if I was in a shitty cyberpunk gang. So
Yeah. Actually, now that you
will.
mentioned that, having read the story, I can see it. I can see it. I like it actually. Um, and actually, Will, your art style is very cyberpunk like, so I can see why like it was really a love at first sight type of thing.
Yeah, thank you.
Is that like your prototypical art style, or is that just like when you saw the script and the story, it was like, okay, this is what I'm thinking?
Yeah, it's generally how I've been developing as an artist over the last 35 years. And it honestly, the project really spoke to me. And after really penciling out most of the first issue, I realized that it's very, very, very similar to the one single issue of a comic book I did in high school. It was very, very like subversive. I was a skate punk, so I was very like, damn the man, that kind of thing. I didn't know what I was really fighting for
Right.
at that point. Nothing really, but a lot of that idea was influenced heavily by the movie Tank Girl,
Mm.
which actually had like panels from the comic interspersed into the film.
Hmm.
While not a commercial success, I still love it. But
We all
it
have one
really
of
got me
those.
out of my shell creatively as far as my art style goes. So
Nice. I like
it
that.
was almost like coming home, really.
I really like that. So, the story Southtown. Give us a short log line for what that story is about.
Sure. Yeah, it's um, for the entire story, the entire series. It's pretty simple. Um, Richmond, Virginia, over the course of the 50 years between now and when the comic is set, has overdeveloped into a mega city. Anyone who is familiar with the Richmond, Virginia area, it covers like what is metropolitan Richmond, uh, becomes something that encompasses everything from Doswell down to Chester, and from like Goochland and Amelia and Powhatan all the way over to like Mechanicsville. So it is hyper developed into the kind of mega city you're used to seeing uh, uh, in cyberpunk media. Uh, this is immediately not becoming a log line because I'm a very long-winded person.
Most
But
most writers are
yeah,
honestly.
most of my editing process in writing is just how do I make these 40 words and turn them into 12?
Yeah.
Um, uh, but in in this future reimagining of Richmond called River City, which is of course one of the modern nicknames for Richmond, uh, we just follow a gang of hackers and freelance criminals, um, as they do what they have to do to try to survive in a world that does not cater to anybody who can't afford the amenities and the luxuries of a post capitalist world.
Nice. I would definitely say that that breaks down the at least the first two issues very well.
Thank you.
Um, Will, I really want to, and I know Josh, this is your writing, but I really want to get down into some of the pages in these two books,
Okay.
and I want to get some of the insight that you had when illustrating and when writing these stories. So, issue one, I thought really was very gripping. The first 7 pages was very interesting because it works very similar to like a prequel type of thing where you setting up the story, you're trying to get the reader to understand where you're at in the world. It's not too wordy. It's not too preachy. It's just, hey, this is where we're at. And then we get that title card on page 8. Now, Will,
The
I need
toothpaste,
to know.
the swab.
Yeah, I need you to tell me about that because that was an interesting way to go about the design for that page. And for those of you watching this, I'm gonna put that panel up or that page up for you to see it. But I think it's really interesting how that was done.
So this would be the first major death in the
Yeah,
series.
yeah.
Um, well, to get that um, pose, I literally sat down against my partner's dresser in my bedroom and took a picture of myself um, to make sure I got the perspective right.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, I wanted him to look, just dead eyed, just whoops, like
Yep.
didn't really do anything wrong, just wrong place, wrong time. That's kind of how Southtown
Hmm.
goes, and yeah, just like the cage to the lock cage to the rat's nest, which is the dive bar that the gang operates out of, and um, yeah, just kind of like bleak hopelessness with this neon sheen over top of it. Like,
Yeah,
because it's a very bright
And
page.
it
and the
is.
neon sheen, we should also say, was definitely the brainchild of Allie, the color artist.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, the color scheme was fully Allie Slauson.
Well, that's nice. One of the things I think I like the most about this story is how dark it is, but it has a very bright background. So like it's a very dark story. It has a lot of very societal type of themes and motifs in it, but you wouldn't really look at it and be like, "Oh, this is a very dark story" because of how, bright and vibrant the story is, which I think kind of fits that cyberpunk type of storytelling. Um, and I know, Will, you're the line artist in the first two books.
Mhm.
But when you were like going through the design for these pages, what was that the mindset that you had of, well, I want this to look vibrant, I want this to look bright, so I'm gonna do the line art in a way where it kind of pops out.
I wanted it to definitely be pretty high contrast, like a good use of like shadow, but also enough for those bright colors to come through. I knew that the palette was going to be pretty bright. I was very I was surprised to see what Ali came through with. I was like in a great way. I was
Hmm.
just like, oh wow, this is really making everything pop. Um, but yeah, I definitely had like a teal and purple neon color palette in the back of my mind, and definitely going to keep those bright colors in moving forward. I'm going to
Nice.
try my best to adapt what Ali had started
I like
as we
it.
move forward. Um, but it definitely like that kind of contrast kind of brings me back to like one of my biggest influences in cyberpunk. I'm not too well read on it, but I do absolutely love the Blade Runner films,
Hmm.
especially Blade Runner 2049.
That was a really good movie.
And specifically the scene toward the end where Gosling's character is at his absolute lowest, but it's one of the most brightly colored scenes in the movie where he's being lit by the joy hologram
Hmm.
as when he finds when that twist happens, or well his character finds the twist, but he's
Yeah,
just like bathed in all this like neon purple and is just at his absolute lowest as a character.
that is real good inspiration right there. I like it. So, Joshua, I want to know because I've kind of dabbled a little bit into the story so far in this interview, but I really want to know, like, when you were creating this story, what was the biggest inspiration for you?
So, there are very different inspirations depending on what elements of it. Um, I've always, uh, uh, as when it comes to a lot of the formatting, I've been influenced by like kind of uh, thriller and crime drama television,
Yeah, I
which is
noticed
why,
that.
yeah, it's something you might notice with the way that I like to like introduce like the cold open sort of an element.
Yes.
I tend to model it a bit more after like a Law and Order type
Hmm.
of a uh, cold open. I like to start with something that kind of grabs you right immediately, and that title card I try to make kind of a dramatic moment. Um, and uh, but so that's kind of the formatting tends to be after television, um, and a lot of sci-fi dramas, crime dramas that I grew up watching. Um, I didn't watch that much Alias or Law and Order, but Law and Order is of course a really easy reference for people to understand.
Yeah.
Alias, I grew up watching all the time. It's not so much a drama, but Chuck is my favorite
Uh,
show of all time. Um, you know, uh, there's just that format that I think flows really well into writing a comic because it's kind of short form writing just on the screen instead of on the page. But when it comes to the types of stories that I tell, um, a lot of it is actually from folk music. I am
hmm.
a folk and bluegrass musician. Oh, I play a lot of different styles of music, but I'd say probably my primary is bluegrass and folk. And just, I really love the extremely dark and morbid, but exceptionally human stories that are told with a banjo and a fiddle. Um,
Right.
and um, and so just between that and between classic cyberpunk fiction, I adore William Gibson's Sprawl trilogy. Um, I adore like synthwave music and a lot of that stuff mixing with just the sort of internalized, more cerebral concepts of bluegrass and folk with the way dark stories are told in a very highly stylized fashion,
Hmm.
um, which for me is kind of that's kind of the appeal to cyberpunk for me in general. It's telling cyberpunk is such a really easy uh, point of reference for like, oh yeah, this is the dystopia we're actually living in.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, I can process it more healthily and be less incited to political violence when I can just slap some neons and some synth music over it and put on a cool knee-length leather jacket and treat it all like I'm the hero in a story rather than somebody who just hates the president.
That makes two of us.
Yeah.
Agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Will,
We're already on watch lists. Who cares?
yeah, I mean, we make comics, so yeah.
We're science fiction writers. We are for sure on watch lists for whatever it is we Google on a daily basis.
Exactly. So, Will, question for you, because we always ask the writer, what was the inspiration for the story? What was the inspiration for you to get into comics to stand a third? And it's almost always the same. Someone's always said, "Oh, I just read this comic," or this, that, and the third. What got you into wanting to draw comics? Like, I know you talked about, meeting with Joshua and kind of like already doing that as a preteen, but like, what was that driving force?
It's a it's a big old can of worms. I'd always been drawing. I always loved like drawing pictures, and style always kind of lent itself to like comic strips. I loved reading, particularly Calvin and Hobbes every day in the newspaper until it suddenly ended in 1994. Well, in the mid 90s, um, and then I discovered the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. So
Honestly, I
uh,
understand.
I love the TV show. I love the action figures, and I kind of got a knack for. That's actually where I kind of learned how to draw anatomy. The first time was just like learning how to draw the Ninja Turtles because they had very human arms and legs.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was big into drawing the Ninja Turtles for a little while, and then I was at the grocery store and they had a spinner rack of comic books, and I picked up X-Men #1, the Jim Lee, Chris Claremont series from 1991, and that kind of like pushed me forward. And one of my closest childhood friends had the first few issues of the Todd McFarlane Spider-Man series
Oh, that's a good
that I got
series.
reading. So I was raised on a healthy dose of Todd McFarlane, Jim Lee, and Sadly, Rob Liefeld was in the mix too, but I think he was one of those like, here's what's not to do.
I like
but
it.
but kudos for trying for that guy. He's
Yeah.
still, but yeah, I just kind of got a knack for just drawing comic book characters and the X-Men and that kind of thing. It became very unpopular when I was in school, so I stopped reading comic books for a good number of years and came back to it in high school because I stopped caring.
Hmm.
Um, it's just like, who gives a shit? I like it. Um, and then I just kind of like just kept at it and just kept developing my skill set out. And yeah, that's kind of where that came from.
Nice. I like that.
And back in the 90s, the comic book industry was an artist game.
Yeah,
Um,
it was.
they
Yeah.
were the ones that split off from Marvel and created Image. Nowadays, it's much more of a writer's medium.
Hmm.
Uh, the writers are more in control. The artists are by and large better than they've ever been, but they're actually sourcing into other countries now instead of just sticking with the good old boys in the U.S. of A.
And
But
I make sure he knows it every day.
Oh wow, Will, blink twice if you need help. No. Um, so I'm glad we got to talk about, both the inspiration behind the story, the inspiration behind how you got to where you're at now, because I have a couple of questions about the book that I need answered. Um, so I already talked about the title card on page 8 in issue 1. Page 14, was that a Punisher motif that I saw, or am I just tripping?
page 14.
That was when I can't remember what her name is, but she was infiltrating.
Let's look.
Oh, perfect.
Oh,
You got the book.
Sharku.
Yeah, she was infiltrating and she was just standing in the hallway with the
Is it this one?
yeah.
There we go. That's just her T-shirt. That as Joshua would direct me to design. It's a winking skull. I'm not
Ah.
I'm not sure if it's intended to be a Punisher nod.
I've never been enough of a Punisher head to think about it. I was
Okay.
just like, I always knew like a skull motif is just a cool thing.
It is a really cool thing. I really love that page. I love that panel specifically for the fact that the darkness around it and you see that skull and it really gives a menacing look to the image. And it works so well as a transition from the previous page. So I love that. I love that so much.
Nice.
Yeah.
Funny enough, that skull tank top is available on our website.
Well,
Yeah.
if you're watching this on YouTube, the link below, you'll be able to go and get that T-shirt.
Yeah, we have a print to order app on our web store, so you just kind of like throw things up there. Most of
Awesome.
it's bought by us, but it's fine.
Well, my next question. Issue 2 and issue 1 have the same thing that I love, which is phenomenal action sequences over a span of like 3 pages. And it's the same 3 pages, and I wonder if this was intentional or not. Pages 18 to 20 have very great action sequences that I don't know if it was intended that way. So Josh will definitely let us know, and then we'll let us know like how did it feel to draw those
Look at the
scenes.
script for number 3 and see if it stays consistent.
I think
I
it's
think it does.
I think I think 3 is pretty close. The action sequence in 3 might be a little longer, and there will
Ooh,
definitely be some moments in the story that call for a more extensive action sequence. But it's kind of a I tend to write everything with a little bit of a after the cold open, like a 3 act sequence with everything that happens. And um I I tend to have I tend to sometimes follow a little bit of the formula of, a big dramatic uh climactic moment toward the end of the second act. And so far that has tended to be to really well be suited for an action sequence.
Mm-hmm.
But I have, as the story goes through, I play around a little bit with that. There are some times where it's best for an issue to open with a big ass shootout, or there are certain fights that there's just been too much build up for for them to only last 3-4 pages, and so they might go for like an entire 6-7 pages of an issue. But I do tend to, I mean, it's hard to be accustomed to writing and not at least subconsciously follow a little bit of a 3-act formula. And it's one of those things that has been proven to work.
That is
It
true.
definitely does have sort of that television style bell curve going on.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's the cold open, then there's sort of like the kind of catch up from the last issue, investigation, action, then regroup at the tail end. So.
And set up the next issue and all that. Yeah.
Yeah. So with all that said, we're about to start winding out. This has been fun. Thank you for jumping on here.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. So SouthTown is a mashup of multiple different genres. Personally, I call it a mashup of cyberpunk, crime, drama, thriller. I think that's probably the best description for it. Yeah. If you two had to work on a completely different comic series and mash other genres, which ones would you want to do outside of the ones that you've already done?
The one that I really, really love the idea of, but it has been done before, so I don't, even though I know I would do it differently, I just think I would leave it alone because Shadowrun is just too well established, is it'd be awesome to do cyberpunk and fantasy, like high fantasy.
Oh, okay.
A lot of it, like, I tend to have like an extremely strong affinity for the cyberpunk genre. There's just too much good about what it offers for me. But other than that, I really like noir, and like noir elements are one thing I like about cyberpunk, which is probably why crime and thriller are things that are coming to mind with regard to the comic as well. That element of that sci-fi is something I really prefer. It would be cool as well to see something like straight up like Dungeons and Dragons level of high fantasy, mixed with something a little bit more akin to a murder mystery.
That would be interesting. I would like to see that. Will, what do you think?
Oh, I'm currently sort of like loosely outlining a project, an independent project, which is going to definitely be like a heavily political dystopian Western kind of thing.
Okay.
Not entirely Western. I think that there are going to be elements of Westerns, and there's going to be elements of like sci-fi, cyberpunk, and definitely like it's all over the place. It has.
It's going to be Cowboy Bebop.
Okay. Okay.
It's gonna be akin to some like the U.S. splitting into nation states and that kind of thing. Which hell, we might actually see soon.
Honestly,
but I think I'd love to do like a Lovecraftian detective noir.
ooh,
Like, I think that would be pretty fun. Or maybe like a David Lynchian drama thriller that kind of defies the laws of like human perceptive logic. I don't know. I'm a big David Lynch fan, so
that would
David Lynch Lovecraft.
Oh man.
Sounds like y'all have some work to do because I'm gonna need this to come out. So once y'all have this done, I'll bring you back on here. We'll promote it.
Hell yeah! Excellent.
Sweet.
Excellent.
What else is set to come out from from your creative team? Are y'all going to work on any more SouthTown comics? I know there's 3 working on, but anything
Yeah,
else?
so I've actually I am halfway finished writing the 18th issue.
Wow.
There are huge plans for like the first story arc that folks are currently able to start reading is it's written out. It's 10 issues long. Um, and that follows the heist that was introduced in the first issue. And the second issue starts to introduce ways that turns out to be way more complicated than it was originally perceived. Not all of the factors and benefactors in play are who they seem. Um, and that plays out for 10 issues. The next uh, 10 to 12 issues. I haven't finished writing it, are about a sort of a different story that succeeds that one. I have things in mind for somewhere around 50 to 70 issues
Wow.
of the comic. I spend too much time thinking and creating, um, and I don't do much else in my life. I create while I'm at work. I write things while I'm writing other things, and
Same.
so it's we have huge plans for like a pretty extended series um, with Southtown.
I like it. I like
So
it
it
a lot.
sounds like Southtown will be going for as long as we're alive.
Quite
Great.
possibly.
Let's let's hope that we continue to get them churned out because honestly, like I said, I've never been so invested in a cyberpunk type of story until Southtown. So you've made me a
Awesome.
fan. Hopefully, after
I'm
this
happy.
interview, you get more fans and people buying the comic. The link
Awesome.
below in the description will be there to allow everyone to go purchase the book, purchase the merch, uh, help these guys make more comics because that's what we're here for.
Oh yeah.
Do y'all have any social media or anything you want to plug for people to find you?
Yeah, uh, you can go to SouthTownComic.com, and that's our website where you can buy issues of the comic, all the different merch, and there is, like Will was kind of alluding to, there's some weird ass merch because we don't have to keep inventory, and so there are like you can buy the Winking Skull tank top that we were talking about in the first issue. You can buy. A Southtown basketball jersey because why not?
Yeah, why not?
There's coffee mugs, there's all kinds of stuff that there's no reason for it to be except we like them. Um, we have Instagram at is it at Southtown
Um,
underscore comic?
Southtown underscore comic.
Cool. I'm glad I
And
remembered
you can
that.
also find that on Facebook, but the address is really weird. Just type in Southtown Comic, you'll find it. Um,
Yep.
our website also has a portal to our mailing list, so we update that at least once a month, just with goings on. Um, my personal Instagram, which I post my art and my cat. Uh, um, and that's Will Smith illustration, spelled the way I spell it with one L. Um, yeah, I'm also on Facebook.
We also have a Southtown community Discord server,
Nice.
um, which we'll have the link that I guess we can put in the description. But yeah, we discuss the comic. We share cyberpunk and dystopian and anti-capitalist memes. We
Nice.
we share any sort of music that like I've made so many playlists on Spotify that are uh, relevant to like, oh, this is the kind of music I think they would be playing at the nightclub that they go to in the third issue, or in the bar where the gang operates. This is the kind of stuff that I think would be playing on the jukebox there. Or one thing that we've done is I have created sort of a read along playlist for each issue of the comic that I've released. And of course, these are all released in the Discord server, but we also release them on social media. Um, so it's kind of like it kind of has a uh, page and panel description of when to switch to the next song, so to speak.
Oh, that's
So
sweet.
so it kind of operates a little bit like a soundtrack. But like I obsess over music a little bit, and Will does as well, and so we create those. We people can share. It's like, oh, I was listening to Ministry, and it made me think of something comical about cyberpunk, and so I share that here for everybody to listen to. Or we also have like uh, I think we're trying to be a little bit more consistent about the timing, but we have like Twitch live streams with
Oh,
our Southtown community. It's just twitch.tv/Southtown Comic. And that is exceedingly informal. We'll do Q&A, but we'll also play like Jackbox or something just to hang out with the community, which is about as much as an introvert like myself can handle. But I do want to show love to the people who are supporting us and making this happen.
nice. I like that. Well, like I said, this has been fun. I enjoyed meeting you too. I think Will, you were the one who reached out to me on Threads, and
Yeah, yeah.
we just kind of connected
This is
from
the
there.
first
This has
time
been
Threads has paid off or anything.
great. Yeah. This has been great. I hope all the rest of my interviews, the rest of this year, go just as smoothly. But everyone, please go support SouthTown Comic. I can't praise it enough. Like I said, all the links and everything that we discussed will be in the description below. Click on it, buy the comic, support as much as you can. And hopefully we can get Southtown Comic issue 3 very soon because it's time.
If the artwork, I'm about 6 pages in so far, and we're hoping to drop that by July. That's my
Oh,
optimistic estimate.
okay.
But
Okay.
definitely, I'll reach out and let you know when the Kickstarter goes live. So
Sweet. I'll bring y'all back on.
keep you in tune.
Excellent.
Yeah. Thank
Thanks
y'all
so
for jumping
much.
on again. This has been the Divergent Comics YouTube channel. Everyone, go support Southtown Comic.